So I'm between you and lunch. I will try to share in 15 minutes some of the most meaningful experiences from my work and my life. My name is Lekshmy. I'm from the Care Lab. We're based in Barcelona and we work internationally. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, Edmund, Ines, the whole team for making it a very smooth ride. And this afternoon, I would like to introduce an idea around reframing aging by designing care, consciously designing care from birth to end of life. Some of the images that you see here on this first screen are the faces of people that we've met along the way working in this field. They have shared their stories with us and stories that have inspired and informed our practice. They are caregivers, patients, citizens, professionals, and policymakers, all with a unique perspective on care. So for the last 20 years, I've been practicing as a designer in the healthcare space. We've done projects in a variety of topics, everything from pregnancy care and family care to palliative care and end of life, and everything in between. So chronic disease management, serious illnesses, prevention. It's a huge terrain that we've explored. And in that time, one of our main reflections has been that the most interesting projects lay in between these dots. They lay on the fringes of healthcare as we know it. And those white spaces is where we believe the biggest opportunities lie for transformation. The transversal topic has been about care. So as the Care Lab, we're focusing and framing our practice around care. And this allows us to explore beyond the boundaries of healthcare, of social care, and of education. It allows us to reimagine care on multiple levels, from a caring society to building caring organizations and facilities, and developing caring communities, families, and individuals. Care is what's been missing as we've streamlined and improved our systems and processes. We've forgotten to take people with us. It's as Rama was mentioning, we call someone a patient the minute they step into a healthcare facility. When they step out, they're a person again. By framing our inquiry around care and practicing design, looking at the world through this lens, we believe that there are some really exciting, important, and sustainable directions to emerge. But today's session is about aging, and we've heard the demographics, we're aware of the numbers, the scary numbers all around the world, and yet I would like you to drill down and relate to this topic on an individual level, on a personal level. I'd like to think about the experience of aging. None of us wants to imagine ourselves old. Why is that? The elderly are always the others. It's something that's happening to someone else, somewhere else. It's for later. We compartmentalize this stage of life. We can't even agree when it really begins. It actually begins the minute we're born. Apart from these individual barriers or blind spots, there are societal barriers that exist. This is an image that we took in Singapore. It's a street on the outskirts of the city where the funeral service providers are located. Nobody wants to go here. This is a place that's off the map. Not in my backyard is a slogan, NIMBY, and it applies to these sorts of services, but also to elder care facilities, to hospices. There are a lot of taboos and superstitions that exist in certain cultures that it's unlucky to go anywhere near these places. It's no wonder we don't want to think about aging. It reminds us of the fact that ultimately we will die. When we think about aging, we're also thinking with dread about the places that we will end up in. So this is an example. There are many nursing homes and elder care facilities that look like this. What are we afraid of with this picture? This is a place that we associate with illness, of being sick. It's not a place for living well. It's a place where we as people become anonymous. We fear becoming dependent. We fear losing our power, losing our voice, becoming invisible. Aging is a family affair. This is part of my family. That's my husband, and that's his father. 2 years ago, we took the tough decision to put him into a nursing home in Budapest, in Hungary. He'd had a series of strokes, and it wasn't possible to care for him at home any longer. Aging impacts not just the person that is getting old, but everyone around them, and the family is implicated in that. As a family, our roles, responsibilities shifted and changed. We had to adapt, and even though myself and my husband have worked in this field for more than 2 decades, we still struggled with this change and with coming to terms with the new kinds of responsibilities and the new shape of family as we lost our loved one. So it's time to reframe. Let's look through this lens of care. Let's look at aging. And I want to share with you 4 different triggers. This is a very personal talk. That's my son, 6 years ago. He's a big boy now, he would tell you. This is an example of positive care. This is something that in all our societies we celebrate the ability to care for children, to raise children. In fact, we say it takes a village to raise a child because everyone wants to be involved. It's a joyous life stage. Why is it we can't take this same passion and enthusiasm and apply it to caring for our elderly? What if society wanted to be involved, to support caring for our elderly? What if we began to think about caring with kids from a very, very early age? So to start reframing aging much earlier by working with children. Another story, this is a lady called Aisha, and we met her as she was looking after her mother here, who has dementia, and she also has a son who's now a teenager with severe physical and mental disabilities. Now, Aisha's story began in a way that's quite typical. She went through a very dark and depressive phase of life, coming to terms with her role as a caregiver. But each and every one of us in this room will at some point become a caregiver if we aren't already one now, or we have been. It's something that will affect every single life. So this journey for her actually led to a kind of growth, an opportunity for growth as a person, in terms of skills, in terms of confidence, in terms of relationship with her community. So again, what if caring for the elderly was an opportunity for this type of growth? Here we have George's story, quite a typical one. He's not quite in the young-old category. When we met him, he was in his early 50s, living in Singapore, running a thriving business, working very, very hard, all hours available, looking after his parents, his wife's parents, still having his son at home, depending on him. He wasn't taking care of his health. He has diabetes. His doctor said to him, "I can't help you anymore unless you start to help yourself." George could see from where he was standing in his early 50s, looking to his parents, he could see what he could become And looking to his son, he could see that the younger generation probably wouldn't have time or be around to be able to support him. So what did he do? He became proactive. He decided to hit the pause button, to scale down his business, to give himself more time to look after himself. He took up cycling. He found a community that would encourage this new lifestyle, a community that would support him in this transformation. Now, what if we were able to give citizens the tools to design their own change in this way? And this story is Conchita. She was 96 when we met her, which was 10 years ago, and her story has stuck with us for 10 years. She's living in a care home just outside of Barcelona. She is hugging this tree to get its life energy. It's something that she does every morning when she takes a walk in the garden of the nursing home. The incredible thing about this woman comes from the fact that she shares a room with her roommate, who is 92, who she looks after. And she's very proud to tell us that she keeps an eye on her, and she feels this sense of responsibility, of companionship. So the ability to continue to contribute, to still participate, to be active as you age comes through in this story. This is what we learned. And this is what we need to make possible, to give people a sense of life purpose for as long as they live. So I just want to end with 3 examples. I don't know how many minutes I have left. 3, okay, so 1 minute for each. We've been working with the Singapore government since 2010 on a number of different projects. It was the time when design thinking was being rolled out across the sectors. We were asked to come in and train design thinking to the healthcare sector. But 2 years ago, we were asked by the National Council of Social Service if we would join them in an exploration to understand the experience of caregiving. This was a really exciting moment because in all of our time working in healthcare, everyone had been talking about the patient and not looking at that person next to them, the wife, the husband, the daughter, the son, the informal caregiver. So we took up this exploration, and I'd like to share with you the results. The Who Cares project. It began by spending time with 10 different caregivers from different contexts, ethnic backgrounds, social classes. We joined them in their lives. We have been experimenting with the use of film and of making insight movies as a very powerful medium for bringing these stories out. So you can see we joined them when they're taking a break to do some exercise and look after themselves, take some respite from caregiving. We joined them in their healthcare and social care appointments to see how invisible they were to the system and to see how they navigate and cope. Taking these insights forward, we ran a series of co-creation sessions. And what's important here is the fact that we were able to work with decision makers across sectors, social care, healthcare, Ministry of Education. We were able to work with voluntary welfare organizations who are on the ground working with these families and caregivers, but also co-creation sessions with caregivers themselves. And that series of sessions really allowed them to shape and own the results of this project. As designers, our role here is we have quite a strong belief on this in terms of co-creation, is to trigger and provoke a reaction. So we go in with design triggers. We don't go in with a blank sheet, but we go in a way that we're not invested or committed to those design solutions. They can be reshaped, they can be enriched, they can be thrown out the window and new ones brought in. But it's important that we go with tangible possibilities for people to react upon. One of the concepts is Care Class. This is a curriculum for introducing the topic of care into schools to start teaching kids from a young age about the qualities and the need for caregiving. And we're very, very proud of the results of this project. Talking about impact, for us, this was one of the strongest impacts we've had with any project that we've done. The work was literally cut and paste into the Enabling Master Plan, which is the 5-year strategic plan for disability for Singapore. So right now, there are teams working to implement this within their services and to really make a difference in people's lives. Designing conversations, at the core, is a conversation about care between somebody that's receiving care and somebody that is providing care. One of the toughest conversations is that around end of life. Nobody wants to discuss this. We worked with a nursing home and hospice team to develop an end of life conversation toolkit that you see here. This is one of the prototypes. And the important thing with this concept is the fact that it creates a ritual, a moment to have the conversation, as well as tools to support a structured conversation. So we built it around the idea of an afternoon tea, and it would be an invitation to the family whose loved one would be entering the nursing home to sit down together with a trained nurse or social worker to begin a conversation called Bite-Sized Future. Let's talk about the future, and let's start to talk about topics early enough to give ourselves time to understand what do you need, what are your preferences, what are your wishes, and to get to the tougher questions slowly and steadily. The importance of design doing here is the fact that the identity given to this toolkit creates an entirely new tone of voice, one that is not threatening, one that is engaging, one that is accessible for people. When we delivered the first prototype, albeit that it was cardboard, the team told us that it just felt precious. They needed to slow down. They wanted to use this with care. It made the conversation feel important. And these are absolutely design doing skills in the choices that are made, but very much grounded on the insight into what's needed and the care and attention that is needed. Finally, what's possible if we take this lens and look at designing care organizations. In 2013, we were asked by the Lien Foundation and ACM Foundation in Singapore, that's the Funeral Homes Association, to look at the experience of inpatient hospice care. How could we improve the patient experience at the end of life? A similar process of inquiry led us to develop this guidebook, design guidebook, with 24 different experience design principles. And what was very interesting is that this was picked up by the Ministry of Health Holdings, who are building these facilities at incredible speed, because with the numbers that we're dealing with, they need more and more beds. But the important thing was to not take a cookie cutter approach and not leave people behind as we build these facilities. So these are design principles that make sure that care is embedded into the hardware of these facilities, but also the software and the services. And we developed a concept called Care Central, which is a building model that was then used by architects to implement and build 3 new hospices in Singapore. And it allows for a variability of spaces, from social spaces to more personal spaces, from more supportive spaces to highly clinical spaces. Because in the trajectory or the journey of long-term care and end-of-life care, there's a need for this variety and flexibility. What happens next? In true Singapore style, 3 years later, we have this. This is St. Joseph's Nursing Home. The original chapel is there, but the new building now also incorporates a kindergarten. The CEO of this nursing home is a true friend and partner. She's a visionary, and design thinking gave her the tools to articulate what it is she believed was needed for her residents and her community. So working together, they literally implemented many of the elements of the DNA of the design principles from the work that we'd done. And within this kindergarten area, they're now opening it up to the local community to enable intergenerational exchange. They want to build a new narrative around aging and start by introducing kids to be able to spend time within this setting. The taboos are lifted. This is happening. This is right in the heart of a community. This is not off the map anymore. And very, very exciting transformations. So the last thing I'd like to say is that, of course, this isn't about designers and designers driving innovation. This is a team from the Who Cares project. We absolutely believe in partnership to achieve these results. And every project is different. You need to think about who needs to be around the table. We work with filmmakers, we work with social workers, we work with caregivers, we work with social entrepreneurs. The door is open and the time is now. So I invite you all to reflect on this and think about who needs to be at your table for care to be transformed in Hong Kong. Thank you.